All right. Good vach.
Good vach.
Welcome to the, I don't know, this was the, last time was the last Lava Malka of the season. So this is the +1 version of the Lava Malka.
5th installment.
We had to because tomorrow I am making the trip to MetLife Stadium in order to represent our Daf Yomi at the event, the Tamei Hadaf event for the Magidei Shiur. They promise that the meal will correlate to sugyas and shas. So I am really hoping they're not serving a bunch of dried figs. We'll see. I will take some pictures. I mean, it's a sham for our Daf Yomi chat, and I appreciate it very much to the Shiur for sending me, and to Kahal Yereim.
A pleasure, an honor,
and then it's going to be amazing. I will try to reserve seats, as we said, since the Jets and the Giants won't be using them during the season next year. They don't need them. Nope. We will be able to I'll put a little reserved sign on a couple of seats, and we'll see what we can get.
Phenomenal.
Okay. We are at the Mishnah on the top of Nun Aleph Amud Beis. New topic-ish. We were talking about the special offering that the Kohen Gadol brings. Kohen Gadol brings a mincha offering made of flour, oil, and he brings it daily. He has to bring the entire thing. Has some frankincense too, and he brings it all of it in the morning, and then he takes half of it and brings half of the offering in the morning, half of the offering in the afternoon. Mm-hmm. If the Kohen Gadol dies during the day, so then we can appoint a new Kohen Gadol. And the new Kohen Gadol comes along, and he has to bring his inaugurated offering. He has to start over. But when he brings it, he's going to bring the entire offering when he starts. So now we're going to start off with Lo Minu Kohen Acher Tachtov. Let's say they don't appoint a new Kohen Gadol that day, right? The Kohen Gadol could pass away. They might not. It might take a couple of days before they pick their next Kohen Gadol. Mishal Mihaisa Kreva. They still have to bring this offering. So who pays for the offering? Right? They've got to bring this offering. When the Kohen Gadol was alive, the Kohen Gadol, he was the one who brought the offer. It was his. The money for the offering came from him. So who's the one who pays for the offering? Rabbi Shimon says Mishal Tzibur. Rabbi Shimon says, Nachi, how are you? Rabbi Shimon says that it was a community offering, and Rabbi says Omer Mishal Yorshin. It was his heirs, the Kohen Gadol's heirs. So Ushlema Haisa Kreva, and the entire thing was brought, right? The entire korban was brought. As we said, you're not going to split it in half when it's brought by somebody other than the Kohen Gadol, and we will see why. Says the Gemara, Tana Rabbanan Rabbis learned Kohen Gadol shemes. If the Kohen Gadol dies, this Bryce explains a little bit. Velo minu Kohen acher tachtov, and they don't appoint a new Kohen Gadol instead of him. Minayin shtei mincha so kreva mishal yorshin. How do we know that the mincha is supposed to be brought from the heirs? Talmud Lomar, as the pasuk says, "V'hakohen hamashiach tachtov mi banav yaseh osa." The Kohen who is anointed instead of him, from his children he shall do it. So, what does that mean? It means that his heirs are going to take care of his korban. Yochol yakrivena chatzoin. You might think that if they step in, then they are going to continue to bring it as half, right? Just like the Kohen Gadol himself would have. Talmud Lomar. Therefore, the pasuk says, "Osa." They're going to bring it. Now that means kula v'lo chetzia. They're going to bring the whole offering, not half of it. So when they bring the offering, the heirs bring the offering. They're going to bring the entire flour, the entire oil, and everyone see whether it's the oil and the frankincense as well, but the entire flour. Divrei Rabbi Yehuda. That's how Rabbi Yehuda learns it. Rabbi Shimon says chak olam. Rabbi Shimon says the pasuk says that chak olam means it's an eternal law, literally, but that means Mishal Olam, that who brings the sacrifice? The world, everybody. It's a community offering after that. Kalil Taktar, and then the pasuk says that it should be completely burnt. Tekula Bahaktara, that you're not supposed to have anything left over for the Kohanim to eat. Now, the reason why that's important is because we know already that any Kohen's mincha offering doesn't get eaten by any Kohanim, because it has to be completely burnt. But since this offering is no longer a Kohen's offering because it's being paid for by the community funds, maybe the Kohen can eat it. So therefore, the pasuk says that no, since this is a consumed offering, since it is an offering that's based on the Kohen's offering, it is going to be completely burnt as well. Now, So dispute between, again, Rabbi Yehuda and Rabbi Shimon. Who brings them? Who pays for it? Is it his heirs, or is it the community? V'haya kohen hamashiach lahachi hudasa is now. This is the question: is that Rabbi Yehuda had learned from the pasuk, the kohen who is anointed, right? That pasuk is coming to tell us that his heirs bring the next offering. So, but is that really what that pasuk is for? Hami boy lelich Tanya. We already used that pasuk for a different teaching in a brisa. Zek korban aron uvanav. Asher yakrivu Hashem bayom hi mashachoso. This is the korban that Aaron and his children bring on the day that he is anointed. Yachol yehu Aaron uvanav makrivim korban echad. You might think that Aaron and his children are supposed to bring one korban, right, on the day that they are anointed. Talmud Lomar. Therefore, the pasuk says, Asher yakrivu la Hashem, that they will bring as a korban to Hashem. Right? It starts off in the singular and it goes into the plural. Aaron bifnei atzmo. Aaron brings his own korban. Ubanav bifnei atzman, and the other kohanim also bring their own korban, which teaches us that the way that this works is every kohen, when he comes to the Beis HaMikdash for the very first time, his first time he's ever going to do service, he brings this special inaugural offering, and he has to offer this flour offering as his inauguration into being a kohen. A kohen gadol does so as well, and he brings it every single day. Okay. So Banav Elu Kohanim Hedyotos. So his Banav, his children in the pasuk, is talking about the regular Kohanim, right? That's what we presumed, right? A regular Kohen brings when they are inaugurated. Well, how do you know that? There's two different ways to interpret Aaron's children. Aaron's children could mean literally Aaron's children who were not Kohanim Gedolim, but they could also mean Ata Omer Kohanim Hedyotos. You think that it could mean that these are the regular Kohanim, they're going to bring one offering, O Eino Ella Kohanim Gedolim. Or maybe we're referring to Aaron's children, meaning his future descendants, that will be Kohanim Gedolim. And that really, the Kohen Gadol brings this offering, not every Kohen. So therefore, Keshu Omer, when the pasuk says, "Veha Kohen Hamashiach Tachtav Mi Banav," the Kohen that is anointed, he's the one who's going to bring the special offering of the Machvas Kohen Gadol offering. Hare Kohen Gadol Omer. That means this offering that is supposed to be brought every single day is only brought by the Kohen Gadol. So therefore, Hamani Mikayim Banav. So then, who are these sons who are going to bring just the one korban when they're inaugurated? Elu Kohanim Hedyotos. That's the regular Kohen. Regular Kohen, one korban, and the Kohen Gadol brings one every single day. Im Kain, if that's so, then Lichtov Kro HaKohen HaMashiach Tachtav Bonav Yaseh. So then why doesn't the pasuk say the Kohen who is so therefore we wanted to say that this is what the pasuk is used for. It tells us how many korbanos, who brings the korbanos. It's not to tell us who pays for the korban if the Kohen dies. So the answer the Gemara says is Im Kain Lichtov Kro. If all that was going on in the pasuk was what we just described, so the pasuk could have said HaKohen HaMashiach Tachtav Banav Yaseh. The Kohen who's anointed, his children shall continue to bring this korban. My mi banav. What does it mean, mi banav, with the extra mem? Shamat minei tarti. It teaches both things. It teaches both that the Kohen Gadol brings this offering every day, that an individual Kohen, when he comes, he brings it one time, but also the additional teaching that it's paid for by if the Kohen Gadol dies, it's paid for by his children. That's called Rabbi Yehuda. Rabbi Shimon, hi osa my ovid lay. So now Rabbi Shimon, right? He doesn't use the word osa to tell me that you have to burn the entire thing, because he learns from Kalil Taktir, it has to Taktar, that it has to be completely burnt. So he knows that you're going to burn the entire, you're going to do the whole thing. So what does he do with this? Mi boile lekohen gadol shemes uminu acher tachtov. He's saying that this is a pasuk. This pasuk tells us that what if you have a Kohen Gadol and he dies, and then they appoint another Kohen instead? Shelo yavi chatzi yisar mi beiso. He shouldn't bring half from his house. The lo chatzi yisaron sharishon, or the half of the offering that the first Kohen who died brought. He has to bring his own full offering. He has to bring also the whole full offering, and we're going to offer the entire thing. V'tepekle min u'machatzisa. So why doesn't he learn it like we had learned from before? In Daf Nun Amud Beis, we had already learned that idea that it had to be brought in its entirety by a new Kohen from the pasuk u'machatzisa. Well, the answer is vav lo dorish. He doesn't like the extra vav. He doesn't learn that type of drush. So therefore, he doesn't learn it. He uses the word osa for that purpose, and therefore he has a disagreement with Rabbi Yehuda as to who pays ultimately for the offering if the Kohen Gadol dies. For Rabbi Yehuda, so now Rabbi Yehuda's got another pasuk that he has to explain. Hai chak olam ma'avid lei. What is he going to do with this pasuk? Chak olam. Rabbi Shimon said chak olam means that the whole community, olam means everybody in the community is going to pay for the offering. What does Rabbi Yehuda do with that pasuk? Right? If Rabbi Yehuda says that only the heirs are going to pay for it, then how does he use this pasuk? So the answer is chuka li olam tehei. It means that this is an eternal rule. This is going to happen in all generations. This is not a one-time circumstance that just for Aaron, for example. This is the mitzvah for all Kohanim Gedolim for all future generations. And then it says Kalil Taktar Lamali. So why does Rabbi Shimon? What does he do? What does Rabbi Yehuda do with that? Kalil Taktar tells me that a Kohen won't consume it. Well, according to Rabbi Yehuda, of course a Kohen won't consume it. The heirs are Kohanim. They're the ones who bring it. Kohanim never consume their own offerings of mincha offerings. So I don't need a pasuk to tell us that. So we learn it as we learn in a brisa. The brisa says, Ein li ella elyona. So the pasuk in the Torah, pasuk first of all says in Vayikra Vav, pasuk Yud Gimel and pasuk Tes Vav. This is Zek Korban Aaron Uvanav. I'm going to quote just a couple of psukim. So we're saying Zek Korban Aaron Uvanav Asher Yakriv Hashem Biyom Himashachoso. This is the korban of Aaron and his children on the day that Hashem that they bring him close to Hashem on the day he's anointed. It's an Asizir Isa Ephah. It's a tenth of an ephah as we've described, etc. And he's going to bring it half in the morning, half at night. Okay. Then it also says V'chol Minchas Kohen Kalil Tiyeh Lo Seachel. Another pasuk says, all mincha of the all menachos, it says, and at the end of that pasuk it says kalil taktar. You're going to burn the entire thing. Then it says, when it talks about minchas in general for a kohen, v'chol minchas kohen kalil tiyeh lo seachel. All minchas of kohanim are supposed to be completely consumed, and they are not eaten. Okay, so now ainli ella elyona minchas kohen gadol bekalil taktar. So now, by the first pasuk, which talks about the Kohen, the Kohen Gadol's offering, so it says Kalil Taktar has to be completely burned. So that means that I have to completely burn that offering. Tachtona, the second time when it's Minchas Kohen Hedyot, when it's talking about the mincha of the Kohen Hedyot, Belo Seachel. So it tells me a losase, a prohibition not to eat it. So now there's a positive commandment by the Kohen Gadol that to completely burn it, and a negative commandment by all Kohanim not to eat it. So but how do I know that the negative commandment of don't eat applies also to the Kohen Gadol's offering, and the positive commandment of completely burning it belongs to the regular Kohen's offering also. Talmud Lomar, Kalil, Gzera Shava. The word Kalil is there twice. The word Kalil is by the Kohen Gadol's offering. The word Kalil is by the regular Kohen's offering. Gzera Shava. Nemar kan Kalil, v'nemar lahalan Kalil. Makan Kalil taktar. Just like one is a positive commandment, just like by the Kohen Gadol it's a positive commandment that it should be completely burnt. Af lahalan also by the a mincha being given by an individual, the Kalil taktar, it also has a positive commitment to be completely burned if a Kohen brings it. Just like the later one, litain lo saseh al chiaso, that if you do eat it instead of burning it, not only don't you get the positive commandment, but you get a negative commandment for consuming that which you can't consume. Afkan litain lo saseh al chiloso. So too, by the minchas chavitin, also if somebody eats it, it is a lo saseh, a prohibition. So fine, that's what we do with that. Now, V'sava Rabbi Shimon is of the opinion, Mishal Tzibor, who pays for this offering from the new Kohen, this offering that once Kohen Gadol dies, and we don't have a new Kohen Gadol who pays for it, it is going to be the community. So he says that is De'oraisa. He says that's clearly it's a pasuk, right? So the Torah tells us who pays for it, the community. But we have a Mishnah. That's a problem because I'm a Rabbi Shimon. Rabbi Shimon says, in Shkalim, which we will learn in Daf Yomi, Mishnah of Shkalim. We do Shkalim, we do the Yerushalmi in Shkalim, when we do Daf Yomi, which is interesting. Shiva Dvar Miskinu, based in, there are 7 things that based in established. V'zeh echad mehen. This is one of them. Ovei kochavim sheshalach oloso mimedinas hayam. One of the rules is that if, let's say, a non-Jew, right, an idol worshiper, he sends a sacrifice to the Beis HaMikdash, and he wants that sacrifice be brought in the Beis HaMikdash, so that's great. We can do that. We can bring that for him on his behalf. Yeah, no, absolutely. It's the based tefillah l'chol ha'omim, right? We're supposed to be able to provide we're supposed to be agents on behalf of Hashem, on behalf of all the nations to serve Hashem, right? We're welcoming to everybody who wants to send a korban, absolutely. So now, shalach imon nesachim. So if the non-Jew, he might not know, right? He sends an animal, he says, here, sacrifice this. Let's say he didn't send any wine or any oil that accompanies it, right? So if he sent his own, so then Krevim Mishalo, then great. Then we're going to bring and use his stuff. V'im lav, but if he didn't send anything, so then Krevim Mishal Tzibor. Then we're going to bring from the community, right? The community is going to pay for whatever is necessary in order to bring them. We don't reject the offering. We'll take the offering and we'll pay for it. V'chein gersh, by the way, where does the community get the money from? The half shekels, right? All the half shekels that were collected. So that's where the extra, that's exactly right. So all the half shekels and whatever was available in the coffers were used for this. V'chein gershemes. Also, let's say you have somebody who's a convert, so he dies. So most people have heirs, Jewish heirs, right? Somebody who's converted might not have any Jewish relatives. So if he dies, and he has offerings that he was planning to bring. So yeshlo nesachim, if he also separated aside and he said, here's the oil, here's the wine and everything that's supposed to go with it, so then Krevim Mishalo, then great, then you can use his stuff. V'im lav, but if he doesn't, for anybody else, we go to his heirs and say, hey, could you chip in order to be able to pay for the rate so we can bring his offering? But this guy has no heirs, so what do? Krevim Mishal Tzibor. They established rabbinic enactment, we're going to pay for it with the community funds. Utanai based in who? Also, here's another rule of based in. Kohen Gadol Shomes, that if the Kohen Gadol dies, V'lo minu Kohen acher tachtav, and they didn't appoint a new Kohen Gadol yet, Shetei minchaso kreva mishal tzibor. His offering, the daily offering of the Kohen Gadol, is going to be paid for from community funds. Now, that sounds like it's a rabbinic rule. Tanai based in.
How long would they pay for it?
How long?
Yeah.
Well, we mean until they picked a new one, right? How long would that take? Hopefully as quick as possible, right? But it's a good point, because theoretically, I thought, what is it, like this afternoon? They'll have a guy tomorrow, right? You definitely got to get a new Kohen Gadol faster than a year, right? Because I would imagine you need a Kohen Gadol by Yom Kippur. Right? So I'd say definitely faster than a year. But I know, as we're going to see, that during the second Beis HaMikdash, it was quite a political process, right? The Kohen Gadol position was paid for. Yeah.
But then they had another Kohen Gadol underneath.
They had theoretically people that were established and set up as backups. Correct. Because theoretically, if somebody could become Tameh in the middle, right? You need an understudy, somebody to pick up. But they didn't have to pick him. Right? You didn't have to go to the next guy. And what was happening in the second Beis HaMikdash is...
Won't they use the next line till they pick someone else?
Apparently not, because once they anoint him, he becomes the Kohen Gadol. You can't remove him.
The interim.
So they would leave the position unfilled, and especially if it's political appointees, which we'll see during the second Beis HaMikdash, that's what was happening.
So there's no intern.
They would not interim, right? Intern. There was an intern, right? They had a second Kohen ready to go. They didn't have the interim, right? But what they didn't have, but that means that theoretically they could be taking bidding, right? The Roman authorities were willing to take money to help them establish the next Kohen Gadol.
So there was no automatic succession.
Exactly, no automatic succession. So this could be a couple of days, could be a week. Right? Okay, it's not say anything. Amar Rabbi Yavo.
Did they have TV campaigns for Kohen Gadol?
Not at the time, but I would presume. Hopefully, in the future, we won't do it well. That's hopefully not.
Leaflets and all that stuff.
But apparently, that sounds like the second Beis HaMikdash.
They had back
That's
then.
correct.
Yeah.
That's right. The pamphlets were a lot harder to hand out. Very
They
heavy.
could only
When
carry
you
a
see
few at a
white
time.
smoke, you know they've chosen a new Cohen.
Amar Rabbi Yavo. So Rabbi Yavo says, "Shtei takonos hafu." The answer is, you're right. It really. So the question was, who pays for it in the interim? So it sounds like Rabbi Shimon says it's a Torah rule, and then Rabbi Shimon says sounds like it's a rabbinic enactment. The answer is that's because they made two rules. They said like this: Deoraisa midat tzibur. From the Torah's perspective, the community is supposed to pay. Kevan dechazu deka midachika lishka, but they saw that sometimes, exactly what you're saying, it took a little bit longer, to find somebody, and it was expensive. It was costing the community funds. They had to pay for it for a few days. So, which I thought was not that expensive, right? It's flour, but remember, they didn't. If they were under Roman authority, they might not have had a tremendous amount of money, right? Their ability to collect all the taxes might have been limited. So takinu dilagabe miyorshim. So they said, well, to save community funds, let's establish, even though the Torah says we should take from community funds, let's go ask the heirs, right? Let's ask them. And so they would contribute. But cave and kapashiba, they saw that wasn't helping. The heirs were saying, no, thank you, we don't feel like contributing. So then akmu adorai, so they put it back and they said it'll go back to the community funds. So that's how that worked.
It's also counterintuitive. Like if it's a large burden, you would think that the community would be better able to shoulder a burden
than an individual. Well,
onto a family.
Except remember that the Kohen Gadol, one of the reasons why he was picked is because he was wealthy. A wealthy family, right? Tax the rich. So,
Even if he
Not in this
wasn't wealthy,
country.
he's gonna automatically become wealthy.
that's correct. They made him wealthy. So this is the Kohen Gadol's
They get all the
kids.
trumors, they get all that.
Yeah, and the Kohanim contributed.
They get.
The Kohanim were supposed to contribute in order to make sure the Kohen Gadol who took over was wealthy. So, anyway, okay. Next, okay. On this issue, once we quoted this Mishnah in Shkol, and one of them that says Ve'al para, since this is the Inyan Yom, we read Parshas Para today.
Yeah.
So Para Duma. So let's talk about the Para Duma for a second. Al para shelo yu mu'alin ba'afra. They made a rule rabbinically that there's no such thing as me'ila. Me'ila is the prohibition against using something that belongs to the Beis HaMikdash. A regular individual just can't take something that belongs to the Beis HaMikdash and use it. If you use it, you not only have to pay back what you used, but you also have a sacrifice, a korban asham, a guilt offering that you have to bring as a result of your aveira. So,
But you can use it. As long as you do these other things.
no,
You can't.
you can't use it. And if you do, your punishment is you have to repay and you have to bring an offering. You might look at a park. I'm not allowed to park there, right?
It might be worth it. Or
Well, okay, so it's but it's still but it's an aveira. You got to get a
you
tell.
cannot do it at all. It's just you have to make.
You physically can, but then if you do it, you have to do tshuva.
Okay.
Correct? That's right. Like murder. Right, you can. Right.
Doable.
You can, right?
Advisable.
Right, exactly.
That's not that serious of a consequence that someone would never do it.
Well, right, stealing, right? You
Right.
can steal, but then you have to repay, right? It's like everything else. Don't do it.
Consequences are not that severe.
Well, yeah, they're financial, right? It's a financial crime, financial penalty, right? We're not going to beat you up or anything. It's a financial crime.
Right, you're not
Okay.
going to-
You're not going to go to jail, right? Exactly. Okay, so
Especially in this.
the al para shelo yumul. So we said that one of the rules is that if somebody takes the ashes of the paraduma, you're not going to commit me'ila. There's no violation of using something that belongs to the Beis HaMikdash, which is very interesting because that's de'oraisa. That's from a Torah perspective. From the Torah perspective, generally speaking, whenever we take an offering and it's burnt, after the offering is burnt, the ashes don't have a problem of me'ila. One of the things is, like, you could take the ashes and they would dump them, and then they would run off into the water that would go out in the draining system out of the Beis HaMikdash. We'll learn that then the fields that would surround the Beis HaMikdash were very fertile because it was all very well fertilized from all the ashes and remains from the korbanos. So there's no prohibition against using that because it was already, from the sacrifices were already completed. Once the sacrifices are completed, the Beis HaMikdash just used it. It has there's no violation anymore. So the ashes of the paraduma, from the Torah's perspective, it's already burnt. So therefore, it doesn't fall into the category of something that belongs to the Hashem still and is a violation. Titania, as we learn in a brisa, chatos he. This is the ashes of the paraduma are called a chatos. They're called a sin offering, even though there's no sin really, because there's no sin that they're doing. They're a chatos. The word chatos also means to purify, right? It's a chatos, so it's a purification offering. Is a great way to translate it.
What does that mean?
Huh?
Chatosi, what does that mean?
Chatosi means I have sinned, right? But a chatos, kites, means to purify. So melamid shemoalin ba, that means that you can commit me'ila by using the paraduma.
Were the ashes from the carbonats, were they basically considered ownerless?
Yeah, exactly, right?
So someone could have set up their own fertilizer business.
Well, the thing is, you got to get into the Beis HaMikdash, right? That was not everybody could just get in there. So
You said it came up through
they had like a water, like a drainage system and things, right?
Isn't it that anything from the drain system the farmers would pay would pay the base mikdash.
That's correct. They could.
Be allowed to use that because it's still considered kind of hekdesh.
So that's So, but then if it doesn't have kedushas aguf, so it's not a meila problem. So still, the Beis Hamikdash was making a profit off of it. It's a good point. Yeah. So melamed. So melamed shemoalin ba. So that teaches us that says this chatos he that it says that it is a chatos melamed shemoalin ba that you can commit meila with the paraduma. He. So it says it. Ba moalin be'afra imolin. Just the paraduma itself, but not the ashes. We're on Nun Beis Amud Aleph now.
What is, don't forget it.
Right? So the red cow itself, you can't use it for anything. It's property of the Beis Hamikdash. You use it and you're violating Me'ilah. Once it's burned and you have ashes, so now there's no Me'ilah. That's what the
What's
Torah
Me'ilah,
says.
please?
Me'ilah is the prohibition against using something that belongs to the Beis Hamikdash. That's what the prohibition is called.
Okay.
Kavosh is like Me'ilah. Okay?
Right, so the menorah,
Can't use it, right? Can't use anything that doesn't belong to you. Belongs to the Beis Hamikdash. Amar Ravashi. Ravashi says, so therefore, it says clearly that there's no prohibition of Me'ilah from the Torah in this Brisa, so why did we have to then make a separate enactment to say that there wasn't? So Amar Ravashi says, Shteik Takonos Havai. Again, it's the same idea. There was a double enactment, depending on the phase. D'oraisa ba moalin ba'afrei moalin. From the Torah perspective, it's like we just said. The animal itself, the cow itself, that's a violation. You can't use it. It's Me'ilah, it's prohibition. But once it's ashes, it's not. But they saw that people weren't treating it very respectfully then. They were like, oh, you mean it doesn't belong to the Beis Hamikdash? We'll just use these ashes for, I don't know, whatever we feel like. One of the things that people used ashes for is they would use them to, like, if you had a wound or something, put ashes on it to help heal. But this is the ashes of the paraduma.
Or to mark your face over here if we're going to do something.
Yeah, so I don't know what people do that, but okay. V'ka'av dimine l'makason, they would use it for their wounds. So gazro bei me'ilah. So the Rabbanan said, this is very valuable stuff. This is the ashes of the paraduma. Could you imagine somebody's coming along just using it for their personal purposes? So they said, rabbinically, it's forbidden. You can't use it. This is too valuable. Nobody can use it. So therefore, keva dechazdik parashi misfei kazos ukmua adoraisa. And the problem is they said, okay, everybody's very scared of this stuff now because they think they're going to get a prohibition from using it. And so what they did was that if somebody was in a circumstance where they weren't sure whether they were tamei or not, so they're like, if I'm not sure, I better not use the ashes of the paraduma because if I'm wrong, if I'm not really tamei, I'll be using something that's inappropriate. But that's what it's for, right? It's supposed to be for that. So if you're not sure if you're tamei or you are tamei, go get sprinkled because you may as well, because it doesn't really hurt, right? But they thought it does hurt because I'm stealing from the Beis Hamikdash. So they said, no, don't worry about it. So they took off the they took off the rabbinic prohibition and put it back at the Torah rule, which was that it's not Me'ilah. Okay.
and a lot of power, the sages.
Yeah, well, they were trying to do the right things, right? Yeah.
Even up to this day, it's amazing.
The ashes of paraduma, it wasn't the ashes that they would do. They would mix it
With water,
then
yeah.
sprinkle and you can get a chop and tar.
Exactly.
How could you use that for anything?
Well, the ashes they would use, right? So that before they
but
mix them. They didn't. I don't know if they had they have a jug where all the ashes were mixed in the water.
They would give every city a small amount of the ashes. You take a pinch or two of it. It's in the Mishnah.
Correct.
Put it in a jug of water, mix it, and you.
That's all you needed, right? But I guess somebody would come along and say, "Oh, you've
The
got these
ashes
extra ashes."
still belong to Beis Hamikdash.
Apparently not
Yeah,
midoraisa.
it's your throne.
Only not. They didn't have. They didn't have. Right. So that's what we're learning. There's no me'ilah. If somebody took them and used them, there wouldn't be a me'ilah problem. Might be you'd have to pay for it, right? But it's not a me'ilah problem. Okay, Tana Rabbanan. Okay, so now, let's talk about how we paid for. Since we're talking about how we're paying for offerings, we have a couple of community offerings that are sort of community offerings, but they're also like a little bit for people doing averos. We had the bull that was for a community mishap, right? The court told everybody something was okay, but it really wasn't, and people listened to them. And now we've got a sin offering we've got to bring. So they brought one bull on behalf of the whole community. Who pays for it? Also, let's say that Avera had to do with idol worship. So if that's the case, then there's a bull, but also a goat that comes along with it. So who pays for it?
Did the court also have to give us offering because they told them the wrong thing?
So that's the court is so the court is bringing the offering, right? But now the question is, who pays for it? So Tana Rabbanan Rabbi Zorn, Par Helam Davar Shel Tzibor Seiri Avodas Kochavim. So by the bull for this mistake, and also the goat for the idolatry mistake. So you don't bring it from the korban tzibor funds. You don't bring it from the community funds. Batchila magbin lahem. So first, what you do is you go ask everybody who is involved in the Aveira, everybody, give a few cents, right? Everybody give a pruta, right? If everybody contributes a dime or so, whatever, you got thousands of people who did the wrong thing. So we'll be able to pay for it that way. Div Rabbi Yehuda. That's what Rabbi Yehuda says. And Rabbi Shimon says, mitrumas halishka hin boy. No, you bring it from the community offerings, just like every community collection, just like everything else. Vehatanya ibcha. So, but we have a brisa that says the shitas are reversed. It says that Rabbi Yehuda says that you bring it from the half shekel, and Rabbi Shimon says that you bring it from a collection. What difference does it make? The answer makes a difference, because we know that when Rabbi Yehuda gets into an argument with another person, the halacha is like Rabbi Yehuda. So whichever side Rabbi Yehuda holds is going to be the halacha. So we want to know which is authentic, right? The first brisa, the second brisa. So Haiminahu acharisa. So we really want to know is which brisa came last. Why? Because we presume the last brisa is corrected, right? The notes are taken and the brisa is redacted properly by whichever one historically is last. So Amrua Rabbanon Kami de Ravashi. So the Rabbanon said before Rav Ashi, Lema Kamaisa Acharisa, right? If you just follow that. The first one is last, meaning the first one we quoted is the last one that came out historically, right? Dishma'inan le Rabbi Shimon dechayesh lepshia. Why do we know that? Because that one makes sense according to other things we know that Rabbi Shimon learned. And that is that Rabbi Shimon is concerned that we know that Rabbi Shimon, when it came to the Kohen Gadol's offering, he said that the community pays for it. Why? Because if you rely on the Kohen's children to pay for it, they'll skip out on their obligation and they won't pay. So therefore we said, just take it from the community funds. So that's why he would say the same thing here. If you've got an offering to bring, let's not make a collection from everybody because people won't pay, right? You send the bills out and people will ignore you. So therefore just take it from the community funds. So therefore, it's probably consistently he's the one who holds that you take it from community funds.
You need to get permission before you take it from community funds. Or
No, because that's what the community funds are for, right?
That's not a very nice Jewish thing to do, is not pay.
You're right.
It's not our way.
That's not the way we should be.
Okay, good. I'm gonna video you saying that. I'm gonna send that as my tuition collection service announcements. Say it's, John's gonna say it is not a very Jewish thing for you not to pay.
Oh, that's good. That's material.
That's right. They will send back, but I got groceries. Okay, so it's not. I guarantee. People also are not.
Kids at home.
I got it right. I understand
From the Gemara,
exactly.
that's the way it is.
This is the way it is, right? Jews want to pay everything. They run out of money too. Okay, so Amar Luhu Ravashi, right? Ravashi says, "Afilu tim b'basarei achrisa." No, you might still say that the last one that we quoted is really the last one that was in order historically, because what does Rabbi Shimon think that the people are not going to pay? He says that's b'milsa deleis behu kapara begave. That's the Kohen Gadol's children. They won't pay because they're not getting an atonement. You're just coming to them and say, "Hey, do us a favor. Could you pay for the Kohen Gadol's offering?" And like, we're not the Kohen Gadol, and we're not our father. We have no obligation. We're just coming for us to give an extra donation. We don't feel like it, so they'll say no. So therefore, you pay from the community. But b'milsa de islu kapar begave. If you came to the community and said, "Hey, you guys, we all did an aveira. We'd like everybody to chip in 10 cents for your atonement," that people will that lo chayesh Rabbi Shimon would not think that people wouldn't pay for that. People are very interested in paying, right? That's they pay for it. Okay, so that's a different type, right? So this is also it's a yesod in fundraising, right? People will pay for the things that are meaningful to them, right? My atonement is meaningful for me, right? My dad's korban that he's not alive anymore, it doesn't matter, and you guys really have to pay for it anyway. You're coming for me for a donation. What do I got to pay for? So my haviola. So what's the conclusion of that? So Amar le Rabba Zute le Ravashi. So the lesser Rabba, because the Rabba, there was a Rabba who lived earlier in time. So this is Rabba Zute who lived later. He's in the 6th generation of Amoraim, he quotes down here. He lived during the time of Ravashi, because he's talking to Ravashi. So he says, Toshmas, he's not the Rabbah that we normally quote. So Toshma, he says, come and listen to Tanya, we're going to learn a brisa. As korbani lachmi li ishai, my korban, that is my korbani lachmi is my bread for my fire. Reach nichochi, it is a pleasant smell. Tishmeru la'krivli b'moado, guard it in order to bring it to me at its time. That's the korban tamid every day. That's what the pasuk is talking about. We read that right before we get into the Rosh Chodesh reading when we read it on a regular basis. Coming up in a week and a half, Wings and Beer Night. Plug. Okay. L'Rabos. That's the last one before Pesach. L'Rabos par elam davar shel tzibur u'seiri avodas kochavim sheboy mitrumas elishka. That's telling us that these korbanos differ. Rabbi Shimon is saying that pasuk is telling us that all of these offerings that you have to bring, they come from the community. That's the community offering. So therefore, that is the conclusion of the matter is that Rabbi Shimon is the one who holds that these offerings are brought by the community, not taken up as individual collections. Okay, next. Mishnah says, Ushlema haisa kreva. When they would bring the sacrifice for the Kohen Gadol, they would bring the entire amount of flour. So Rabbi Chia Barabba, boy Rabbi Yochanan. So Rabbi Chia Barabba says, Rabbi Yochanan asked the following question: Shlema shachris, shlema ben arbayim. When the offering is being brought, there's no Kohen Gadol yet, right? So that's what's going on. When there was a Kohen Gadol, you brought the whole thing, half in the morning, half in the afternoon. So there's no Kohen Gadol today. So they would bring the entire thing in the morning, which we knew, and then it says you're supposed to burn the whole thing. So what does that mean? Did they burn the whole thing in the morning and then bring a whole nother offering and burn the whole thing again in the afternoon? Or did they just burn the whole thing in the morning and they did nothing in the afternoon? Right? They just have to burn the whole thing. So they did. They burned everything and you're done. You don't have to do anything later in the afternoon. So Amar Rava, so Rava says Tashma. Come and understand the following from a Mishnah Maseches Tamid. Shmini, right? The 8 things. In Maseches Tamid tells us what all of the Kohanim, they all had jobs to do during the Korban Tamid. There are 13 Kohanim that had a job during the morning service of the Korban Tamid, and 15 during the afternoon service. The 8th Kohen, right, they were all carrying different parts of the limbs and the flour and the oil. The 8th Kohen, what was his job? Bechavitin. The 8th Kohen on the list, in the procession, his job was to bring the Kohen Gadol's offering on the Mizbeach to burn it. That was his job. Now, the question is, if this only happened in the morning and wasn't happening in the afternoon, that means that sometimes there was no 8th Kohen. There was no guy who didn't have that job. So if that's the case, so then how does the Mishnah seem to imply all the time, whenever they brought a Korban Tamid, there was always a guy number 1 did this, guy number 2 did this, you get to guy number 8. Guy number 8's job was to bring the flour and the oil that belonged to the Kohen Gadol's offering onto the Mizbeach. Great, but what if there was no Kohen Gadol and they burned it all in the morning, so then he doesn't exist? That's not what the Mishnah says. The Mishnah doesn't say sometimes he didn't exist. The Mishnah says that's the way it was. 8th guy does this job. So therefore, you seems to indicate that there was always that guy. Hey, chidami, so what's going on here? Demeis Kohen Gadol velo minu acher tachtov. We're talking about a circumstance where the Kohen Gadol dies. They didn't assign another Kohen instead. And nevertheless, you're going to still have an 8th Kohen bringing the offering in the morning and in the afternoon. And that seems to solve Rabbi Yochanan's problem.
Which means that there's 2 fulls.
2 fulls, exactly. You're going to have to bring 2 fulls that day.
It's all from the 2.
Yes, all from according to Rabbi Shimon, right? According to Yehuda from the Kohen Gadol's kids, right? That's still machlokas. Amru Rabbanan Kamei Rabbi Yirmiyah. So the Rabbanan said before Rabbi Yirmiyah, it's not really a proof. Amar Bavloi Tipshoi. These are stupid Babylonians, right? That's what they always say, right? You say that in yeshiva, right?
That's an understatement.
Those dumb Babylonians, right? Because Mishum de Yasru Ba'asur de Chashocha Amri Shmatasod de Mechashchon. Because they live in such a dark land, right? Babylonia is known as a low place on earth. I guess the elevation in Babylonia is below sea level. Apparently, we'll Google it. We'll find out.
Sometimes you come from there.
And therefore, they say dark things, right? Ella, that's just a wrong. It's just that's not what's going on. Ella diktani shvi'i besolis chi beyayin. Take a look at that Mishnah. What does the Mishnah say? That Mishnah says that the 7th Kohen on this procession, what is he supposed to bring? He's supposed to bring the fine flour that comes together with the Korban Tamid. The 9th Kohen in the procession brings the wine that comes with the Korban Tamid. Okay? So these are jobs in the procession. So Chinami de Lobatli, what are you going to tell me? Because they're in the procession, it means that they're always in the procession? There's never a circumstance where Kohen 7 and Kohen 9 doesn't have a job, we just skip them in the procession? That's not true. Because it says in Bamidbar, Minchasam v'niskehem balayla. It says their Korban Mincha and their Korban the Korban Mincha and the wine and oil that come with them. So it says they can be brought even at night. We've learned this before, that the Nesachim of a Korban don't necessarily have to be brought together with the korban itself. If they are brought together, then they have to be brought that day. But let's say somebody has the animal, but he doesn't have the flour or the wine to go with it yet. Okay, he's got 10 days. He can bring it later, right? He can catch up. So what if the Beis Hamikdash?
Would it be valid though?
It would be valid, right? So let's say the Beis Hamikdash had the animals for the korban tamid. They didn't have the flour and they didn't have the wine. So what did they do? They brought the animal, and they brought the stuff later. Well, then what did the seventh coin in the procession do? What did the ninth coin in the procession do? Nothing. Well, then how do you understand the Mishnah? Clearly, the Mishnah is saying, when everything is being brought, the seventh coin did this, the eighth coin did this, the ninth coin did this. But there could be circumstances that the seventh coin wasn't doing it, and there could be a circumstance. Just skip that guy. And if the eighth coin, there's no korban kohen gadol that day, skip that guy. Doesn't mean that there has to be that. Mincha someone came out. You can bring their mincha and their nisach even tomorrow. Ella. So rather, how do you understand the Mishnah? De'i lo katani. So de'i lo katani. Sachanami de'i lo katani. The Mishnah is not concerned for the what if circumstance. Once in a while, it's not usual. Once in a while, they wouldn't bring the oil. The Mishnah wasn't worried about that. They said when you're bringing the oil, that's guy number 9's job. Sorry, the wine, right? That's guy number 9's job.
But how do they have so many Kohanim?
Oh, because and every
Was everybody a Kohen in that back then? Or
well, how many Kohen we have now, right?
we got
thousands.
The whole shul, and there's like 50 people here.
Well, so but the base on this is the base on Migdash, right? So they had they would have a whole watch would show up. So all the Kohanim would come in families. So each group, hundreds of Kohanim would show up at each service.
This was every day.
They would have, and they would take weekly rotations. All the Kohanim would come in a weekly rotation. So every Kohen would get a couple weeks to serve in the base of Migdash. So, yeah, you were drafted.
They had on the spreadsheet when you come in.
Yes, absolutely.
I guess I can take that off my bucket list, right?
What, to become a Kohen?
Yeah. To be in the base of Migdash.
Yeah. So,
But they had to keep track of when they were supposed to.
absolutely, yeah, they knew where their rotation was. Absolutely, right? They marked it on their calendars. They knew to show up. This was their week. I drew, and it was important they show up because they got all the skins of all the animals, right? So there was a very, very profitable experience to be able to show up, right? So I drew a kami de Rava. So they brought this story about what Rabbi Yirmiyah said about these stupid Babylonians back to Rava. Amar mibushisin amri kamaihu mituvasan lo amri kamaihu. He says, he's right. That was a stupid blunder, and the reason why the people in Eretz Yisrael think badly of us is because they tell the people in Eretz Yisrael all the stupid things we say, not all the smart things. Right? We also say some smart things, but that one wasn't so good.
No snakes.
Then Rava said, actually, Rava says, Hanami tivusani. This actually was a good drasha. There's nothing wrong with this drasha. Amar Kra, the pasuk says, Solas mincha tamid. Harehi lecha keminchas tamidin. The pasuk says by the chavitim of the Kohen Gadol, there's a pasuk says that it should be fine flour of a mincha tamid continuously, meaning that you perform the minchas chavitin just like you perform the korban tamid. Just like you have to bring it in the morning and the afternoon, you always bring the minchas chavitin in the morning and the afternoon, regardless of whether you have a Kohen Gadol or not.
Minchas chavitin, what's that?
That's the Kohen Gadol's offering, right? That's the Kohen Gadol's offering. It's always brought that way. My Haviola. So, okay, what was the conclusion of this between Rava? Do we go like Rava or Yirmiyah? So, Amar Rav Nachman Bar Yitzchak Tashma Detanya. We learn a brisa. Shlema Shachris Shlema Ben Arbayim. You bring the entire thing in the morning. You bring the entire thing in the afternoon, and that's like Rava says. Okay, Mishnah says that we're going to bring a full Yisarot in the morning. We're going to split it in half. Okay, that's normally how the Kohen Gadol brings it. The question is, how much frankincense did they bring? Normally for a korban mincha, you take one kmitza. That's the scoopful of frankincense for your isaron. So when the Kohen Gadol was bringing his frankincense, he brought one kmitza, or did he bring two? So Amar Rabbi Yochanan says, Pligi ba Abba Yossi ben Dostoi v'Rabbanan. This was an argument between Abba Yossi ben Dostoi and the rabbis. Abba Yossi ben Dostoi and Rabbi Yossi ben Dostoi says, Mafresh lo shnei kibatzim shel levona. The Kohen Gadol, every morning when he would bring his isaron of flour to the base of Migdash, he would also scoop up 2 handfuls of levona to bring with him. Kometz shachris levona is the frankincense. And he would bring one of them in the morning and one of them in the afternoon. For Rabbanan Amri, mafresh lo kumetecha. The Rabbanan said no. He would just do one scoop, and that was it. Chatzi kometz b'shachris, and then when he would cut his offering in half in the morning, he'd bring half of that in the morning, and chatzi kometz ben arbaim and half in the afternoon. Okay, so but my kamifli, what is the point? What are they really arguing about? So Rabbi Yossi ben Dostoi says, Lo ashkechan chatzi kometz dekariv. We never find in any korban anywhere anything less than half and a full kmitza of frankincense being offered. Kmitza, whenever you have any offering, and you're bringing frankincense as part of the offering, you're always taking a whole scoop. There's never such a thing as half. So therefore, why would this be any different? Therefore, we must say that they had 2 scoops, and therefore they split it in half instead of a whole. For Rabbanan Savri, there was Rabbanan say, this whole offering is different. Lo ashkani sarn debayshnik matzim. We never see in a circumstance, we don't see ever, where do you ever see that when the amount of flour that you're supposed to bring is an isaron, you're supposed to bring 2 scoops? You don't bring 2 scoops, doesn't make Raisin Bran, right? You're supposed to do it.
I was waiting for that.
Right? Wrong cereal. That's okay. You're only supposed to, right? You're only supposed to bring 1. Yeah. Right? You bring 1. That's all for every time you bring it. So therefore you bring 1 here. So which way do you look at it? So by Rabbi Yochanan. So Rabbi Yochanan wants to know. Kohen Gadol shel meis. Okay, let's leave this issue about whether you could be bringing 1 scoop, you could be bringing 2. Okay, Rabbi Yochanan wants to know this. Kohen Gadol shel meis. Okay, when the Kohen Gadol dies, that's our story that we're talking about today. V'lo minu acher tachtav, and they didn't put another one in his place. Nun beis and beis. L'Rabbanan, according to the rabbis, huchpala levonaso olo. According to the rabbis who say you're only going to bring 1 scoop, did they double up the amount of frankincense that he had to bring or not? Right? We know you're doubling up the amount of flour. Did they also say double up the amount of frankincense? Right? If you're bringing a full amount, a full isaron of flour in the morning, and then you're doubling that up and bringing that again in the afternoon, so why wouldn't you have to bring a double portion of the frankincense too? Bring a scoop in the morning with that one and bring a scoop in the afternoon. Oh, Dilmore, maybe we look at that like this. My de gully gully, my de lo gully. The Torah says that you're supposed to bring the whole isaron in the morning, the whole isaron in the afternoon. The Torah doesn't tell us anything about the frankincense. So if the Torah doesn't tell us, stay with what you know. You keep the 1. So therefore, even though you double the amount of flour, you still stick with the 1 scoop of frankincense. So he doesn't know. That was his question. Rabbi Yossi ben Dostoi. So he says, Bein Rabbi Yossi ben Dostoi, Bein Rabbanan Mahu. So his question really is, according to Rabbi Yossi ben Dostoi, and according to the Rabbanan, right? What's the deal? Do we double up whatever the amount of frankincense you're supposed to bring, whether it's 1 scoop or 2? Do we double that up or not? So Amar Rava. Rava says, Toshma. We come and listen. This is something we're gonna learn later on Daf Kuf Vav. Chamisha kimotzinhein. There are 5 times that you're supposed to take scoops for your offerings. And they'll talk about the different rules. Now, what they do not mention is the scoops of frankincense for this lavona, for this Kohen Gadol's offering. V'im isa, if it's true that when the Kohen Gadol dies and you're going to bring a full scoop, so zimnin de mishkachas lo shiva, then sometimes you're going to wind up with not 5 scoops of kmitza, then we should include these 2. You'll take another scoop in the morning, another scoop in the afternoon. There should be 7 kmitzos. That's not listed in the Mishnah over there. The answer is De'i lo katani. This is not really important. Why? Because it's a what-if case. It's not really the normal circumstance. The Mishnayos generally tell us what to do in normal cases. The one time that there's a Kohen who dies and you didn't appoint a new guy instead, how often does that really happen? During the time of second base Mikdash every year. But generally speaking, those are not the cases we were worried about. That's why the Mishnah doesn't discuss that case. Okay, so it doesn't prove anything. Yosef Rav Papa v'kamar laho lahoshmaita. Rav Papa was sitting and somebody told him over this teaching, and he says, Amar le Rav Yosef bar Shmaya le Rav Papa. Rav Yosef bar Shmaya told Rav Papa following, V'ha mala kometz bachutz. One of the 5 that they list in that Mishnah is somebody who does a kmitza for an offering, and he burnt from an offering. He's got the flour, and he takes the scoop, and then he takes that scoop and he burns it outside of the courtyard of the Beis Hamikdash. That's prohibited. We said you're not allowed. That's called shchute chutz, right? Well, kmitzas chutz, right? Take a kmitza, and I'm not allowed to take a something from an offering and offer it outside of the Beis Hamikdash. So if I do this, it's a violation, but only if I do it in the offering in the right way. If I do the offering, obviously take a pinch and I bring it outside, that's not enough. So I take the full kmitza and I bring it outside, I'm in violation. Well, that's di'i havok v'katani. That's not a normal case. That's not what's supposed to happen, and it's listed. So you told me the Mishnah is only talking about cases that are supposed to be the normal way for things, and then that's a case that's listed. That's not a normal situation. So it clearly is listing cases of things that are not normal. And so therefore...
The Mishnah, that was much more common.
Well, it's hopefully never supposed to happen.
Yeah, but maybe that was common.
Maybe it could happen. Okay, well, so you're saying that people were doing
In
it?
the time of the Mishnah, people were doing it, and therefore the Mishnah...
That's Rav Yosef's question to Rav Papa. And they leave it. It's a good question, fair question. They don't leave it, right? They say, oh, it's a fair question. In other words, it's not supposed to be that way. If your Mishnah is listing all the things you're supposed to do, right, which was it, the answer, okay, so...
Thank you.
But it's not. But it's also. They also don't say it's a proof, right? And they don't say, "Wow, that's a great kasha." They leave it there. They're like, all right, fine, we hear that. Because the question the next time the Gemara moves ahead and goes, "My haviyallah." What was the conclusion? That, in other words, they didn't look at that and say that was the conclusion. Maybe because you said right. They don't know what the conclusion is. So what's the conclusion on this? Right? Amar of Nachman bar Yitzchak. Wait, are we doubling up the frankincense or not? That's the question on the table. So Rav Nachman bar Yitzchak says, Toshma, come and listen to Tanya. We learn in a brisa. Kohen Gadol shemes. If the Kohen Gadol dies, velo minu acher tachtov, and they don't point another one instead, shlema. So then you're going to bring the full flour, isaron, like we said in the morning, and shachris in the morning, and shlema bein arbayim, and the whole thing in the afternoon. Umafresh lo shnei kmatzim, and you're going to scoop out two kmitza, two scoops of frankincense. Kometz shachris, the kometz bein arbayim, you're going to apply one of those kmitzas in the morning and one in the afternoon. Umafresh lo shloshes lugin, you're going to take 3 lug of oil, okay? Lugu mechza shachris, and you're going to divide that in half. 1.5 lug of oil goes to the morning, and lugu mechza bein arbayim, and 1.5 to the afternoon. So now, money. So who's this opinion? Who's this going like? Ilema Rabbanon. So if it's the Rabbanon, so then what's going on here? How much oil are you supposed to bring with the Kohen Gadol's offering? So you're bringing one. Remember we said one isaron, and we said from the proof, right? 3 lug of oil. 3 lug of oil. So if this Mishnah was talking about doubling everything, how much oil should we have been bringing? We should have brought 6. 3 in the morning, 3 in the afternoon. But it doesn't say that. It says bring 3, bring 1.5 in the morning, 1.5 in the afternoon. Therefore, they're saying only the flour's doubled. Of all the ingredients, the flour's doubled, but the other ingredients are not doubled. Okay, then we say, so the ingredients are not doubled. Then how much frankincense did we bring? It says bring 2 scoops, offer 1 in the morning and 1 in the afternoon. That 2 scoops is not a doubled amount. So whose opinion is this? Ella Abba Yossi ben Dostoihi. This is Abba Yossi ben Dostoi's opinion, who says in the original case, how much does a regular Kohen Gadol bring for his offering? 2 scoops. Okay, so now Da'amar Chaviti Kohen Gadol biyama shnei kamatzim baya. He says you always bring 2 scoops. So therefore, regular offering from a Kohen Gadol is going to be 1 isaron, 2 scoops of frankincense, 3 lugin and 3 lugin of oil, and I'm going to divide all that in half. Okay, so therefore, now when the Kohen Gadol is deceased, I'm going to double up the flour, but I'm not going to double up anything else. So therefore, I'm going to still have 2 isronos of flour. 1 I'm going to do in the morning, 1 in the afternoon. I make 1 scoop of frankincense in the morning, 1 in the afternoon, and I make 1.5 lug of the oil in the morning, 1.5 in the afternoon. So now, shnei kmatzim baya ulavona lo huchbala. It says now I'm going to still need, according to Abba Yossi ben Dostoi, right? I'm going to bring 2 kmitzas of frankincense, that's what always I need, and it does not get doubled. He doesn't say bring 4, 2 in the morning, 2 in the afternoon, v'shemen lohuchbal. And he also doesn't say double the oil and bring 3 in the morning, 3 in the afternoon, just says 1.5. So therefore, since you can clearly see what Abba Yossi ben Dostoi holds, you're not supposed to double the oil, and it's clear the Rabbanan must be holding the same thing. Meaning, the question argument between Rabbanan and Rabbi Yossi ben Dostoi is only how much frankincense you needed in the first place. But they don't argue about whether you're supposed to double it if the Kohen Gadol dies. You don't. Clearly, Rabbi Yossi ben Dostoi says you don't double it. Therefore, we have the answer to Rabbi Yochanan's question, do you double, according to the rabbis, and you're going to bring 1 scoop of frankincense, do you double it and bring 1 in the morning, 1 in the afternoon? No. You bring the whole, a second Yisrael in the morning and a whole Yisrael in the afternoon, but you're still only bringing 1 scoop of levona, 1 scoop of frankincense. And you're still bringing 3 lug of oil. Okay. Amar Rabbi Yochanan says, halacha Rabbi Yossi ben Dostoi. The halacha is like Rabbi Yossi ben Dostoi, that on a regular day, the Kohen Gadol is supposed to bring 2 scoops of kmitza, right? So you could do 1 kmitza in the morning, 1 kmitza in the evening. Umiyamar Rabbi Yochanan hachi. Is that really what Rabbi Yochanan holds? V'ha'am Rabbi Yochanan halach gestam mishnah. We have another teaching that Rabbi Yochanan always follows when there's a Mishnah and it doesn't state whose opinion it is. Rabbi Yochanan says the halacha is always like the Mishnah. Utnan, and we have a Mishnah that we're going to say later on in Daf Kuf Vav, Chamisha kimotzinhin, there are 5 types of kmitzas, and in that list, it doesn't say the scoops of the offering of the Kohen Gadol. Why? Because it's not a full kmitza, it's only half a kmitza. So therefore, it's not Rabbi Yossi ben Dostoi, because Rabbi Yossi ben Dostoi should tell me that my morning offering of the Kohen Gadol should have a full kmitza, and the other one, so there should be 7 in the Mishnah that comes later on if it's Rabbi Yossi ben Dostoi. So clearly the Mishnah doesn't go like Rabbi Yossi ben Dostoi. So how does Rabbi Yochanan say the halacha is like Rabbi Yossi ben Dostoi, and then tell us that it goes like the Mishnah when the Mishnah does not go like Rabbi Yossi ben Dostoi? So the answer is, it's an argument within Rabbi Yochanan's opinion, meaning one opinion says Rabbi Yochanan says the halacha is like a stam Mishnah. The other opinion says Rabbi Yochanan doesn't hold that way. He holds the halacha like Rabbi Yossi ben Dostoi. Hadron alach tchelas, hadron alach tchelas, hadron alach tchelas, and we will finish the parak and continue new parak Monday nights.
Perfect timing. Perfect. Go ahead. Thank you, Rabbi.